You're listening to Ecto Portal, a journey into the unknown with Anthony Anderson and Verna Wilson.
I hope that you are seated comfortably with the light turned down and the curtains drawn.
Somebody there?
Hello, once again, to another journey into the unexplored, the unexplained Ecto Portal. I'm Anthony Anderson, your host, and I'm here with my co-host,
Verna Wilson.
And today we're actually going to do, it's an interesting story about La Pasculita, the corpse bride. I've gone into a department store where you looked at mannequins and you thought, wow, those are so real, they're creepy. This is probably a story that would touch on that weird, creepy vibe you get from those mannequins, right?
Right. This is a mannequin where people think it's actually the corpse of a young woman. And they think it's not really a mannequin. It's actually her embalmed corpse.
Oh, lovely.
Standing in the window, staring at you.
It's a great way to sell clothes.
Yep.
La Pasculita, or Little Pascuala. It's a bridal mannequin that lived in a store window in Chihuahua, Mexico for the past 75 years. Now, that's a really long time for a gown shop to retain the same mannequin, but the dummy has had a really strange history around it. And La Pasculita, some say, isn't a dummy at all, but the preserved corpse of the previous owner's daughter.
Now, for years, the story of Las Pascualita has been drawing loads of visitors and tourists, including media personalities from all over Mexico to Chihuahua. Now, people from South America, the U.S., and Europe have started paying homage to what they call the corpse bride. People smudge their noses up against the shop window. They stare at the mannequin. They're trying to figure out if she's real or not. And they're very taken in by her stare, her gaze, the mannequin's eyes, and and also her realistic looking features. Most people walk away convinced that she has to be real.
La Pasculita was first installed in the store window in March 25th, 1930, and she was dressed up in a spring seasonal bridal gown. The effect of her in the window was instantaneous. People simply could not tear their sight away from this new mannequin with the wide-set glass eyes, real hair, and blushing skin tone. And pretty soon they all realized that the mannequin closely resembled the shop owners at the time, Pasculita Esparza. It didn't take long for them to come to the conclusion that the dummy was in fact the embalmed body of her daughter, who had died recently on her wedding day after being bitten by a black widow spider. Now, this revelation didn't go very well with all the local townsfolk, and a lot of them had spoke out their disapproval, and by the time that Pascuala could issue an official statement denying all of the town's rumors, of course, had been way too late. Nobody was willing to outright believe her. The daughter's name had been lost over time, and La Pasculita stuck through the years.
And of course, the speculated presence of a corpse must naturally be accompanied by supernatural happenings as well. Several odd incidents have been reported around the mannequin, none of which have been confirmed, of course. There's a story that a lovesick French magician would arrive at night and magically bring it to life, taking her out to town. A few others believe that her gaze shifts and follows them around the store. At night, she's also believed to shift positions in the window. Those tales are pretty scary. Most of all the shop workers who are there to see Pascualitas every single day, and the ones who leave the shop, the last, are definitely not a happy lot, according to what everybody hears. Her outfits are changed twice a week behind closed curtains. Sonia Bersagia, a shop worker, she says, every time I go near Pascualita, my hands break out in a sweat. Her hands are very realistic, and she even has varicose veins on her legs. I believe she's a real person. Now, a count like that coming from a person who's actually changed the mannequin's clothes seems very believable. Could Pascualita really be a 75-year-old corpse? Although most Chihuahua locals are convinced that La Pascualita is actually a well-preserved corpse, the internet is full of explanations as to why that couldn't possibly be true. The Museum of Hoaxes, for example, states that it would be impossible to embalm someone and have their flesh be preserved that perfectly. For some reason, people tend to think that it's easier to preserve a body than it actually is. While one commentator adds, bodies go really bad pretty darn fast unless you take some rather heroic measures to keep them from doing so. Both Lennon and Mayo have basically been rendered into a state much like rubber and are kept under extraordinarily monitored conditions. Most of the stuff that undertakers do is with the aim of making the corpse look good under burial. Anything over a couple of weeks and things start going very bad. A taxidermist might manage something, but it's not going to look pretty. So it's up to the viewers to figure out what they think could actually be the reason why this corpse, if it's really a corpse, has remained preserved for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to look at it at the flip side. So,
okay.
A mother who owns a bridal shop, her daughter on her wedding day, she's excited to get married. She's bitten by a black widow spider. Her daughter dies. She's lost her daughter. Her daughter obviously was devastated. She died on her wedding day, which is the worst. The mother loves her daughter so much and misses her that she says, you know what? My daughter loved the bridal shop. She loved helping people pick out their gowns that they're going to get married in. Why don't I find a way to keep her with me and the shop that she loves so much, and find a way to embalm her as a mannequin? Because maybe her daughter took care of other mannequins. Maybe she made sure they were dressed. It was what she liked to do. So she thought, if I put her in the window wearing these gowns, and other people can experience seeing the gowns that I put on her, that it'll make her happy somehow. It'll appease her. So, unless mom knows how to embalm daughter, I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. So she's going to have to find someone who can embalm the body without saying anything to the rest of the community. I don't know how likely that is. I have my doubts there already. But let's say she finds someone who says, I know someone who can help you, and they find a way to preserve the body. Somehow think, to go from let me preserve the body to, let me put it as a mannequin in my shop, to me that's another huge jump. Because I could see where a mother would want to preserve her daughter's body if she was already mentally ill, the mother. And would she keep her at home because she wants to keep her with her? Or would she go one step beyond being mentally ill and think, wow, if I preserved her as a mannequin, I could put her in the shop window and let everyone enjoy her. That's not weird at all, is it?
That was my first question. Why would, if this mother really did that, why would somebody put your dead daughter on display for everybody to see?
Forever.
Why would you do that? Now, we also have to look at the times, too. At that time, burials were done at home. Burials were... They dressed up the corpse and they...
Would they do them differently in Mexico in 1930, though? Would Chihuahua, Mexico, would there be still a lot more tradition than there would, say, the U.S.?
I would say it was a traditional... The funerals were conducted very traditionally back then. And if you were... But think about it, the times, too. If you were a well-off family and you were a mother who was grieving over your child and... you couldn't bear to bury her. Let's just say she couldn't bear to bury her.
Right.
She could have, there were some embalmers who could actually embalm a corpse and preserve it very well under those circumstances. And you also have to think the weather in that country
Very
and
dry.
in that city, probably very warm most of the time. So she could, if they, from what all I heard, that they were a well-off family, and they could probably afford to hire somebody who was extra good at what he did.
But that's the weird thing, though.
But
is,
why would
would it be an embalmer that's local? Would you have had to brought someone in from somewhere else that the town didn't know?
And did the embalmer know that they were going to be displayed in a window, or did he do it under the mother's request?
Oh, so maybe you're thinking they brought someone in to embalm her with the idea that she was going to be buried. They just wanted her preserved to look good, and that's probably what the embalmer thought, not knowing, oh, they mean to keep this girl in a window with the dress on.
Right, because I'm not sure an embalmer would actually agree to that unless he was handsomely paid.
Well, it could
There has to be
happen,
funeral records of the woman's funeral.
Well, that's just it. And if you did one, you wouldn't get an embalmer from the town because everyone else would talk, right?
Right.
So you would go somewhere else and bring that person in, or bring her body to that person and have them do the work. And it could, I could see that happening where they tell the embalmer, we just want her to be the best, most preserved she looks, the most beautiful. So when we lay her to rest, she'll look just as good as she did.
Right. And they wouldn't, I don't know if they would how an embalmer would feel knowing that his handiwork's going to be seen by everybody for decades.
Well, that's just
rather than under the ground.
Very Norman Bates sort of. And then they take the body back and they just don't have the heart to bury her and think, wow.
Because she looks so beautiful.
He did such a good job. Why don't we just put her in the window wearing the dresses that she loved?
Right. And
which is sick in itself.
It's sick in itself. But I can see where people would be freaked out about it, because when you do look at the picture of her daughter, of course people knew her daughter at the time. They knew the family.
Yeah.
The family owned the shop. They probably saw her daughter dozens of times, the locals. They knew the bride looked exactly like her.
Yep.
So to me, if it's not her daughter, it's even kookier that there's a mannequin standing there that looks exactly like her daughter. She just lost her daughter. That's kooky.
But then you could think mannequins back in the day, I'm talking way back.
Right.
Were probably designed individually based on pictures of real people.
That's true too.
It wasn't until I would say the 40s and the 50s there was a manufacturing. They all kind of looked the same kind of way. Do you know what I mean? And then even mannequins, as time went on in the 50s, they started to change. The 60s, the faces started to change. Just the design of mannequins. But back then, they probably were especially in Mexico, in Chihuahua, any mannequins that existed were probably based on real people.
Probably.
Now, it isn't totally outlandish to think this family, if they were well off and owned a bridal shop, wouldn't have had a mannequin made to look like her daughter.
Okay, how do you explain the hands?
Okay, I was going to get to that.
Okay, all right.
But it isn't a crazy idea to think they could have one made to look like their daughter. It's kind of a novel thing. Their daughter loved the shop, loved the bridal gowns. And, they're proud of her daughter, so let's make a mannequin of her. Ha ha, isn't that cute? The hands are the creepiest part. But I also want to say this, because I was thinking about this when I looked at the pictures. You all have to go on the internet, by the way, and look at these. Google this to see these actual images.
Take a look. Yeah.
They are the wrinkles, the veins. Did we ever stop to think that maybe the artist who made it was really good?
That's true, too.
Including varicose veins. All of that is very artistic. Painting, all of that stuff. People who aren't used to seeing that on mannequins might freak out and think, oh my God, it's a corpse, it's a body.
Well, I also heard that people who make the figures for the wax museums of some celebrity and political figures do very realistic figures on their features. So they could have done it. They could have done it with this mannequin too. The only difference is it looks so much like her daughter that it's easy for people to get confused.
And if, like I said, if they used her daughter's picture, the mannequin, the artist was very, very detailed and made really good mannequins. Maybe he only made one. Maybe it's his first one. Maybe he's just a painter or something besides that.
Sure.
Or they got someone from another town. His detail was so good, it just freaked people out. And of course, we know urban legend. If one person gets an idea and they tell someone else, that person tells someone else, and it gets worse and worse and
Well,
worse.
especially in a small town like that.
Yeah, oh my God, their daughter died. Oh my God, and they have a mannequin that looks exactly like her. Oh my God, did you see it has veins?
I wonder that she didn't come out and defend herself enough. She didn't talk enough.
Well, we don't know that either.
We don't know that. I mean, but they could. People can actually go into the town and see the town's records about what really happened with his daughter. There's medical records. There's burial records. So if they want to look at the town's archives,
Dig up the body.
well, not necessarily.
Yeah, if her grave is empty.
Well, if her grave's empty,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah. Oh, I get you. I get you
Dig
now.
up
Yeah.
the body.
And it's sad that there wasn't an antidote to the poisonous bite back then.
Yeah.
Medical care still had a long way to go as far as every single poison they could find, and especially in a small town like that.
Yeah.
It's sad that had to happen. So it leaves a lot of questions. Why would, as we mentioned in the first part of this, why would a mother want that if she's really grieving? I wouldn't want to see somebody standing there forever, somebody I really cared about, just standing there and not able to talk to them. But
if you had your daughter preserved and you were already and didn't bury her, you're already mentally gone. So you could probably justify putting her in your shop
if
window.
she was mentally... grief does weird things to the mind. It really does. I admit that. So if she was, and there are some people who are so grieved that they can't stand to have the person's remains underground, and we all understand it's part of grief not to miss your loved one, but to go that far.
But even embalmed, wouldn't this girl stink?
I wonder about that too. Yeah.
I mean, you can embalm someone, but for the first 6 months, this girl must stink.
Yeah.
Like, oh, do you want to try this dress on? Oh, no. No. That one's ripe. No.
Well, then how would you explain to the workers, the people who work there now, guess what? You have to change that mannequin.
Like, why does she smell so bad?
Well, maybe some of them don't really believe it. They say it's just a mannequin. This is just a legend. I'm not going to change her. And then who knows? After they change her, maybe they change their mind. I don't know. It would be cool to go to the town and interview some of the workers there if they're allowed to talk about it. Maybe they're not allowed because it's their jobs.
All right, me and Verna are going to Chihuahua, Mexico to do a new on-location show.
I'd like to do it. I'd love to do that.
Just to investigate
Sure.
La Pasculita and find out if the corpse bride is real and what people know.
I would love that, but I have a feeling that the workers are not going to talk because it's their jobs. And they don't want to sit there and
But
talk.
it's publicity for the stores. They might.
Well, if the owner lets them.
Well, the owner... Now, we discussed that before, too, where if you're the owner... Obviously, the owner who currently owns the store is not someone who's the family member. The mannequin came with the shop.
Well, not anymore.
But the mannequin came with the shop.
Right.
So people are still talking about the mannequin. It's 75 years later.
Sure.
You are not going to move that mannequin from your store window.
No.
'Cause that brings
it's
people
part of
in.
legend now.
But that brings people in. It's business. It's famous. We're talking about it. We're nowhere near Chihuahua, Mexico.
And who knows, maybe the current owner would be glad to know that a radio show is being done about their store.
Exactly. So what do you know about it? What were you told about it when you bought the store? Who did you buy the store from? And what did they know about it?
It may be worth to go there and ask questions. And I was reading questions from people who live in the town, and they said they pass by that store every day, and they said that sometimes her hand actually does move. They've seen her move, and these are people who just live there, and they're not necessarily into the supernatural, but they said, yeah, we've seen it move. We pass by that all the time.
I want to do an investigation of the shop too, just to see if there's any residual.
That would be an interesting
anything
investigation.
Connected.
Yeah.
You never know, because the excitement of new brides coming into the shop looking for their perfect dress, all that excitement and all those relatives coming in comes with it.
Right, and I'm sure a lot of brides who have actually bought dresses from that shop, I wonder what they have to say about it.
I don't know.
But to them, it's just another store. It doesn't matter.
But you're right. I just didn't even think about the fact that The dresser dresses the bride up, what is it, 2-3 times a month?
Yeah.
Someone buys those gowns that mannequin is wearing.
Right. Someone buys it.
And they buy it for their own wedding.
Right.
So that's kind of
So
nasty
they don't
too.
think about it. It's just a pretty dress.
Do you
It's
like
just
it?
a
I got it
mannequin.
off a corpse.
Exactly. So
So yeah.
it would be interesting to interview people who've bought dresses from that store.
Yeah.
What they think.
Exactly.
If they're willing to talk about it. Yeah, my dress was bought from, they think it's a corpse bride in the window.
We'll have to look where Chihuahua is and see if we can make it happen.
Sure, that would be
A weird trip.
an interesting and weird trip, but it would be very cool.
It would be very cool.
Yeah.
In search of La Pasculita.
Yeah, and I thank my relatives in Mexico for telling me about this story.
I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, and alerting me to this story because they've seen it and they've been past it when they visited that town.
You should tell them to send you a picture when they go.
I think I might do that. I think I'm going to tell them to send me a photo.
Because I'd be curious to see. I mean, we obviously see. You can go on the net and Google it, and you can see a ton
but
of
to get
pictures.
a real picture taken
Yeah.
from somebody is different. Yeah.
Yep, like, I want you to go in and take me some close-ups and take some video footage, whatever.
And we're asking anybody who lives in that town or near it or who comes to visit it, please send us a photo of the corpse bride in the window, if it's really a corpse bride, what people think is the corpse bride, and send it to us. We'd like to see pictures.
Now, and you can see where the owner would probably give you a wink, like, oh, is it real? Maybe it's real. I don't know.
I have a feeling that that's the reaction they get. You know, they kind of evade the question.
Well, because you want the legend to continue.
Right.
If you find out and break off an arm and go take a look inside, you're going to know right away if it's a corpse or not.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's probably the reaction.
Do you think it's a real corpse, or do you think it's just a mannequin that looks really close?
Do I think it's a real corpse?
Yeah.
I think it's a very good possibility.
So you lean towards it's real?
I do. And I tell you my reasons for it. My reasons for it, the hands look black and blue towards the end of the fingers.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be that it's an old mannequin. It's wax. The wax is melting, or the wax, I wouldn't say melting, but the wax is wearing down.
Mm-hmm.
And people did, and I know it sounds not a very good thing to say, but people did weird stuff back then that you would never see people do now.
That's true.
You had all kinds of oddities back in that time that were more, I wouldn't say completely accepted, but it was more acceptable to see. Whereas now, I don't think somebody can get away with that now.
No, I think you would be probably sent to prison if you tried to pull that off.
Right. So what's your opinion? Do you think it's real?
I don't. I think it was a very good mannequin artist that built the mannequin based on a picture of their daughter when she
Sure.
was still alive. And they probably all loved the fact that it looked like their daughter. They were delighted by it, put it in the shop window. And I think the artist was so... And I wonder if... This is another question we'll never know. Maybe the mannequin existed before her daughter died.
Oh, that's true too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And just the artist painting the varicose veins, the creases on the hands. It's very detailed when you look at the pictures. So where you can think this really does look like a human hand. That could be artistry of the person who made the mannequin too.
And back in that time, even though Mexico is a very religious country, there were a lot of ghosts and superstitious stories circulating around that time. So,
well, there's more reason to not it wouldn't be real, is because
Right.
I mean the whole
exactly.
horror of you actually doing that to someone's corpse would just be sacrilegious.
It would be very well. People were outraged by it, and who can blame them?
Yeah.
And people, and who knows? Maybe somebody's grandparents still exist and remember it, and they remember the shop owner, and who knows? Maybe there's still some outraged people in that town who
I don't
wonders.
know. They'd have to be born when it happened in 1930. They'd have to be 90 years old now.
Well, there are people in their 90s still living, so.
But they'd have to be more like 100 to remember that occurrence, though.
Well, it's not out of the question, but I agree with you. It's rare, but it's not out of the question.
Maybe their kids would remember them
their
telling
kids.
her.
They remember their
yeah.
grandparents talking about it.
Yep,
Yeah,
that could be happen. But
sure.
I don't know. I lean towards really good artistry of a person who built a
Sure,
mannequin.
I can go with that.
Because word of mouth is really amazing in itself.
Sure, I can go with that, and then I can also go with the theory that people did weird stuff back then, and there were
That's true.
And there were probably there were probably people who back then were able to hire somebody who could do a really good job. And they just kept quiet about it. But
Yep.
either way, I have a feeling the mystery may be unraveled someday.
I would imagine. So the wrong
Yeah.
person buys the shop, closes the shop, gets rid of everything, cuts up the mannequin and says, oh my God, it's a skeleton, or oh my God, this thing's old. It has termites.
You never know.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. There you go, folks. Take a look at the pictures. Tell us what you think. Do you think the mannequin's real? Do you think it is the mummified corpse of La Pasculita and her crazy mama? Let us know on our Facebook page. I would be curious to hear what you have to say and whether you think it is. Or if you want to comment below on this podcast, we would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your views. Yeah.
All right. So until next week, we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Royalty-free, copyright-free music by Ross Bugden.